Welcome to another fun, fact-filled, fantastic demo with Weld.com. A lot of you have asked and written me about my burn bars and my guides and stuff, so I'm going to build one for you. I've responded to a lot of private messages and sent pictures and stuff, but we'll just go ahead and do a full video on it. I build these out of various stock, small, large, for detailing. Some of you have asked me why I push the torch versus why I drag the torch, and that's simply because that spark stream will go away from my feet when I'm pushing it. Plus I can see where I'm going, and I tend to cut one-handed all the time. Anyway, I'm going to build one of these for you. 2" by 1/4" angle iron, 1¼ by 1/4" flat stock, and a piece of round bar, and that's really all there is to it. When I get done with them, I like to hand file, sand, or I'll take them over to the machine shop and have them fly cut this. Some of them, I'll have them put a chamfer on it so that I can hit that bevel angle, but I'll show you how to use them here in just a minute when we get done with this one here. I'll show you one other little trick that I learned years ago. So anyway, let's get this build going here. First thing I want to do is set this up. And really, I just leave a air gap in between here because I want my torch to be up above the material that I'm cutting, so I use this as a spacer. I'm going to bring this out here and let it hang over about 3/8, thereabouts. And I'm not going to measure it, I'm just going to look at it. And I'm going to put a tack back here on the corner. By doing that, I can move this bar back and forth. I'll put another tack over here on this corner. I'm going to put a series of tacks down through this flat bar, but what I don't want to do is tack back here so that this thing rises up, which it's not critical. I'll put some small tacks under here because this should never touch the material or never interfere with anything. I'm going to put a couple of tacks back here on the back side. 2, 3, 4. I put 4 tacks back here in between these. Tack this about every 4 or 5 inches. Again, it's not critical. Next thing I need to do is make a handle. I have scarred this because when I heat this up, if I put a soapstone mark on there and heat it up, I'm going to lose the mark. So what I want to do is I want to heat this up enough, and I'm just going to put it in the hole of the table here and bend this thing over. I don't even need to bend it over at 90 degrees. I might, but we'll see how this thing bends. And then I usually put mine at an angle up here so that my fingers are above any kind of heat when I'm operating this thing. A lot of times when I'm using this burn bar, I'm just leaving it set, and I use real light pressure so I can make cuts, bevels, all kinds of detail work. So let's bend this rod. It's a 3/8 carbon steel rod. When I'm doing heating and bending and stuff, I still like to use a neutral flame. I like to heat these up till I get a good cherry red all the way through them. I don't want to heat them to the point where they become, I want to say, a liquid on the outside, because when you bend them, you'll tear the material on the outside of the bend. So yes, you can get them too hot. They bend super easy, but then it's like you tear open the grain on the outside of the material. And the trick to this one is I need to line these up so that I get a good 90-degree bend. And if I miss, I can always adjust it somewhat. Or we can blame it on the camera guy or something. You know, that's always fun. Okay, so I missed. You know, one part of this is laying flat and this part's coming up over here. All I'm going to do is heat this up again. Give it a good heat soak. Put it back in the hole and give it a bit of a tweak. Look at that. Get you some. So this was it was bent crooked. I've got these at 90 and they're kind of consistent. It's not critical, but I don't like that being out of plane, so I just heated it up and tweaked it. I need to tack my handle onto my burn bar here. I have measured it out so that it's centered. And I'm going to angle this up a little bit, and how I'm going to gauge that is I have measured 1.25 inches up, and I'm going to set this down, and I'm going to look at this down through the burn bar, so it should be pretty well centered up as far as the angle that I want. I'm just going to tilt it up a little bit. Another thing I may want to look at is, it looks like I may have missed my bend a little bit, meaning this one's a little taller than this one. No big deal. I'll just gap this open a little bit. Tack on the inside. Enough where I can still move this and manipulate it. I could measure it if I'm really worried about it. 2 1/8. 2 1/8, it's consistent. Another tack. So I can get a little more weld on here. I don't need to weld on this a lot. If I did weld on it a lot, it probably wouldn't be as straight as just normal stock, so I'm not going to get crazy with it. Probably put a couple of heavy tacks here and blend these two together. If I didn't like the amount of bend that I put in there, let's weld it on enough. I could come over here and heat these up right next to the weld, bend them up slightly. I could heat it up right in the middle of this, right here in the stock. I could custom bend this wherever I wanted. So now, I mean, basically we're done, other than the fact that we've got some dingleberries. That's a technical welding term. We've got some berries that have stuck around here. I'm not so much worried about the ones back here by the handle. The ones I do worry about are right out here. If there's anything on here, which there is, we'll come in here and draw this file down through here and take everything off. I could also angle it toward me and pull it, and I can get a nice cut. If I put this in a vise, I could operate this file and get some even pressure on it, and I could slick this up nicely. But basically this is fully functional as is. That's how simple this is. Now, one thing I told you I was going to mention, you know, I operate these a lot straight up and down. If I'm making a cut, I'm usually hanging onto the burn bar and I'm resting the tip on here and making my cut, pushing it away from me. If I want to bevel, I hang on to the torch head up here. No, it's not supposed to be super hot, but I will hang on to it up here with my fingers, and I will put this finger, I hate it when it does that, I'm sorry. I will put this finger on the inside of this guide, and again, light pressure. I'm balanced, I'm hanging on to this, and I'm beveling like this. My bevel angle doesn't change. Anyway, that's how you kind of operate these. There are some other super nice guides out on the market, and I mean, they're worth every penny. But if you're around the shop or you're around your home and you need to do something quick and simple, you can operate this with plasma. If you have a plasma torch, you need to set it down and do some drag cuts. You just have to remember, with a plasma, you're going to have to subtract the edge of the nozzle to the center of the tip. You know, for your standoff, you wouldn't want to make a line and then set the bar down on the line, because you're going to miss your cut by however much that distance is. Push, pull, use it like that. Beveling, I like to be up here where it's facing, you know, and I'm going away from me. I can see my line, I can see what's going on in the cut. So they operate like that. Pretty simple, little effective. I've been using them for years and years and years. I had an old millwright out in Oregon when I worked at Klamath Falls at Columbia Plywood. He showed me this, and I mean, that was 40 years ago. 40 years ago. So I've built a number of these. I'll build them small for getting inside beams. I'll build some long ones. The really heavy ones they're not fun when they get super heavy, especially if you're operating it on the side of something in the vertical position. Unless you're sticking this on there with some pretty heavy magnets, it's not that fun. So in any event, I hope this helps. Again, a lot of viewer requests, a lot of personal questions, send plans. There's really no plan. That's the trick to putting them together. Flat stock, 1¼ inch. Stuck it out here about 3/8 on both sides. Sandwiched it. It should be pretty flat. Simple handle. We're done. Hope you found this entertaining. Please subscribe to the channel. Check us out on Facebook and Instagram. And thanks for watching Weld.com.